Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the experiences and memories that playing tabletop games with friends and family can create. Today, we're going to be talking about games that we can fix or want to fix. And before that, though, let's kind of get into what we've been playing this past week. For me, it was the new Witcher game. I got a chance to play that, and it was a bit long. Um, but I mean, I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a little bit of a deck builder, but like the deck mechanics were vastly different than any deck builder I'd played before. Um, Namely because your hand is how you buy new cards, but your hand is also your action pool for the next round. So you're kind of spending future actions to get more cards, or if you go with the cheaper cards, because most cards cost, let's say, 1 to 3, depending upon where they're at on the board, or actually 0 to 3. You could pick up a zero cost card, which might not be as strong as the other ones, but it's going to get you more actions the next round. It's got like kind of interesting, little like nuance going on there that I really enjoyed. And in fact, it kind of came on strong at the end. We had to wind up kind of cutting it early because a lot of people had to go home at midnight. So we didn't get a chance to play for the last point, but we had all kind of rushed. Like it kind of came on strong. We all got 3 points right in a row, and it was going to be kind of then of a race to see who could build up enough to get that last point, which you have to get by hunting a monster. And I think at that point there were all level 3 monsters out there. So and you have to, as you're leveling up, you have to burn cards out of your deck, and your deck is also your life in fights. So yeah, so it's kind of a deck builder, but not really, because whenever you start a fight, you basically reset your deck, and because you're resetting for the fight. So I don't know, it's got some interesting things to it, and I really enjoyed it.
Is that the Witcher Old World that just came out?
Yes.
Okay.
It's good to hear that's enjoyable. It's the IP games. They've definitely been improving over the last few years, but it's still a bit of a unknown when you get into an IP game. It does help this is in the hotness right now, so it's a kind of good bet that it'll be good, but yeah, I'm glad to hear it's actually good.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think IP games are just a crapshoot of what you get. And we've had such terribleness for a little while. We're bound to get something good, hopefully, here soon. Like a nice string of good games.
Well, it's definitely gotten away from the point where you can just assume because it's an IP game, it is straight garbage. And now most IP games are at least half decent. Although there's still, I'm sure, some garbage out there. But
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I guess Nathan, why don't we hear what you've been playing?
okay, I've got a couple games to the table lately. I've not just been playing Frosthaven. So
Did you complete
There's
that
other
yet?
games?
I did not complete that. I played about, we got about 140, 150 hours into it, and then we said, okay, we have family coming for the week, so let's put it away, play other things. It may or may not ever come back out, but I still got a lot of hours out of it, either way. What I have been playing is I got my physical copy of Thunder Road Vendetta to the table, and we did play this on the channel. It did fall flat on our playthrough, but there was a lot of things that didn't go well in that recording. One, the mod was not great. Also, it was only the base game. With the full Max Chrome, with all the various expansions and all the things you can throw in, it is a lot of fun. The player powers, even if you don't use them a lot, they add a lot of interest to the game. and you have these individual car powers that you can get that really are nice and it's a lot more fun with everything. And it helps having the physical copy and having the full game, because that mod was not really the full game. So, what else
Yeah,
have I
I
been?
can see. I can see getting a little bit more to it. You know, like a little more meat on the bones for it would definitely help out from that what we at least played out.
And
Yeah, I think that was the consensus that we had, was the little bit more would make the game a lot better.
the sheer chaos that can happen with all the various things you can throw in is a lot of fun. You can have people blowing up left and right, and it just goes wild all in one turn. And suddenly it's like we her first game is like, oh yeah, it's like not much happening for the first couple turns, and suddenly five cars were wiped out in one turn. It's like, what just happened?
Yeah. So how many players did you guys have when you played?
I've played it with mostly four, and it does play really well with four. It can play five. I'm interested in trying that. Technically, the components are there for you to be able to play with six, but even in the rulebook, I believe they said in the rulebook, probably best not to try it with six. So, yeah, because it just get too crowded. One person can get eliminated pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Other games I've been playing, I finally played my physical copy of Moonrakers. So we played that also on the channel, and that was a lot of fun in the channel, and it's just as much fun with the physical copy. In Moonrakers, you are going on missions, but you have to negotiate, because for the most part, you cannot accomplish a mission on your own. And it's basically, beyond that, it's a deck building game. You are playing cards combos to try to meet objectives for this mission. And it's all about that negotiation and the potential for betrayal. But if you betray somebody early in the game, you are in trouble for the rest of the game, because nobody's going to trust you anymore. But
Yeah, I can't wait to get mine out. I got mine not that long ago, and super excited.
did you get the expansions?
The only thing I got the negotiation board, which I think is very, very helpful. And then extra action dice, just to kind of push me over to get all the chrome shiny cards.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it.
Yeah, I was curious about the expansions. A little bit pricey to get them all, so I didn't end up getting them. I may regret that later.
I'm thinking after a couple more plays of it, I might circle back to them, but we'll see.
The last game I got to the table was Jamaica. Jamaica is a pretty lightweight racing game in which you are playing as pirates, going around the board, and each turn the captain is going to roll 2 dice, and then everybody's going to pick a card from their hand, and each card has a day or night, and when you play that card, you look at the die that was assigned to day and the die that assigned to night, and you take the relevant action on the card for the die value on that section. So, like, for example, your day action might be get money. If the die value for the day is 5, you get 5 money. Or if you're trying to move, you're moving 5 spaces. Pretty straightforward game. Very simple. I think it's going to be a really fun game for families with younger children.
Like, how young are you thinking?
Uh,
Because I am looking for games to play with my nephew, who's turning 13 shortly.
I think it would work really well for them. It could play relatively young. I obviously don't have my own kids, so I'm probably not the best judge of that. But yeah, 13 would be great for this. For sure. So that's what I've been playing. Evan?
So, we got 2 games we're going to talk about. The first one being, camera over here, Horizons. So Horizons by Daily Magic Games. It is a 3X game, not 4, because there's no extermination in it. But you're all playing as a spacefaring race that is expanding into this new universe, and you have 5 actions that you can do on your turn. It's all printed on your player board, and you can take 2 actions and you can mix and match them. What's really cool is you can hire allies with the game, and those allies are limited use, but they really beef up the base actions into the game. Um, got to play that, and it was actually a really, really cool game. It doesn't have really good staying power, though. What I mean by that is it is a great game to teach somebody that's interested in jumping into a 4X style game, because it's really fairly easy to teach and it's not super heavy, and you can get it done in 60 minutes, which that is those 3 things are the complete opposite of almost all 4X games. So you can use this to introduce somebody with it, but as you grow and want to do more in that field of game, this game is going to be left behind. So you're going to have it, you're going to play it for a year or so, and then you're going to be wanting more, and you're going to be wanting it to jump into something a little bit more, and then unfortunately no more horizons. There's an expansion to it that does add the extermination factor. Maybe I might try and get that to test it out with this one, but just playing the base wasn't bad. The artist in there is one of my favorite ones, so that's what really drew me to it. So, but yeah, Horizons, a decent entry level game for 4X. And then the other one that I was going to talk about is something we actually played all together last week. We all got a playthrough of Earth in. So, Earth, you start off on an island and you're trying to build a ecosystem upon that island, and by doing that, you're building up actions and engines based off of the 4 actions that are available for you. It's all about resource management with your soil, card management coming into your hand. You have multiple different resources that you're using out with your compost pile, the soil, like I said, and many other things that are going on with your sprouts and your canopies you're building up. And then everyone's racing for the fauna cards. They get bonus points. So there's a lot of stuff going on, but overall I think they managed that very well because it's not hard to understand what is going on. But I'm more interested in hearing what you guys thought overall, since we've had a week or so to kind of digest the game.
So with this game, there's definitely been a lot of comparisons to Wingspan and to Ark Nova, and I could definitely see those connections. Especially the kind of tableau building, and you're building more actions based on the type, certain action types, similar to Wingspan, and the card combos that were really prevalent in Ark Nova. Now, I did enjoy the game. I think I need to play it at least once or twice more to really fully appreciate it. But right now, I still consider it slightly below both of those games, though it's still a great game.
Yeah, I feel like it was a good game. I enjoyed it. I don't know, I feel like it's less like Arc Nova or other or Wingspan or anything like that. I can't really say entirely on Wingspan because I still haven't gotten around to playing that. I know. But I felt like Furnace was maybe because there's a lot of the whole you need to worry about the order that you're doing things in. And so with Furnace, you have to kind of worry about also the order that you're doing in, collecting the different resources. I mean, that's just, at least how I was looking at it.
Yeah, Wingspan's kind of that way too, because you get your birds out in Wingspan, and they trigger in the specific orders you have them laid out.
Yeah. So then it sounds like it's a good comparison there then. Yeah, because like with, Arc Nova, there's really no, like building an engine. You just have cards that combo off of each other.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would. It's a game I definitely would play again. I don't know if it's one that I would go out of my way to buy, but I I mean, if somebody brought it to the table, I would definitely play it.
It is a pretty rules light game, but it does have a lot of meat to it. So yeah, as I was kind of saying, it's like because of that, it's deceptively easy, and I think we'll get more and more appreciation the more we play it.
Yeah. And I also feel like the advanced way, I couldn't imagine because I think I played it once before without the advanced, and yeah, I didn't like it anywhere near as much because like you need that little bit of extra things to do. I feel like playing it without the extra animals and other things is a detractment. Like I would not play it any other way.
No, I agree with that. And really playing the base versus the advanced, there's not a lot of difference. Going 2 animals to 4 animals, and then adding the 2 ecosystems, like it's just, I mean, it's more for you to manage as you're playing, but I don't think it's that much more that it makes it like going from like here to like here. Like it's a small step. That's why I figured when we did it, we'll just jump right into it. Now, I will say, much like John, I too have not played Wingspan. So I can't comment on comparing it to those. But I think the most common thing that I'm seeing is the game is not so much a replacement, but a very good alternative to Wingspan.
At the very least, you should watch Peter's Bob Rossian Wingspan playthrough. It's
That's
like
what I use to fall asleep.
yeah, it's the chillest playthrough we've ever had on our channel. But I
Maybe we
wanted
can get him to do a solo play of Earth and see if we can get another.
actually, I just did a playthrough that I have to edit still of cats and quilts. Wait, what was it? Quilts and cats of Calico. Yes, quilts and cats of Calico. It's in digital beta right now. It actually should be out relatively soon, but they're still doing the beta testing. It is also one of those super chill, super relaxed game. I played it. I was. It was actually the quickest I ever went to sleep after that because I was so relaxed. I mean, for good or bad, it was pleasant.
Sometimes you just need those like low key games just to be like, hey, we don't need to be killing each other. Let's talk about our ginger plant here.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to mention on the Horizons, it's like I haven't played that, and I probably won't ever. I was kind of scared away from it because of the 4X light, and because I find in most cases 4X lights just tend to fall flat for me. There are a few of them that are good. For the most part, they just always seem to be lacking something. And Exterminator is like one of the most biggest things that actually can add that excitement to a 4X game. So, and if I can't play it as a Dalek, then what's the point?
No, I get that, and it's a hard one because 4X, like I said, you're committing 4 to 6 hours usually to a good 4X game.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find a good entry level one is so hard. And I think this one did a fairly good job, but I think just it's its own worst enemy because of that. It's just I'm going to have it in my collection for a very short time because I'm beyond that level of wanting a game like that. So, and most of the people that I play with are going to be you guys, a couple other people that I know locally that are beyond that level of 4X games too. So there's no staying power for me in my collection for it either. But for like our game collection that we take to like cons, I think it would be a great addition in for that.
Yeah, I haven't really built out my, kind of hosting, teaching games, collection in a long time since, you know, I haven't hosted new players, for a long time.
Yep. Well, we probably should move on to the news. And, I know Evan has a lot, but I'll start off with mine. My selection's pretty small. The only thing I really want to talk about is I'm excited for the Ethnos reprint. The new version is called Archean Society. Archeos Society, sorry. And if you haven't heard of Ethnos, well, you probably have, but if you haven't, it is a relatively well received game that didn't get as much attention as it deserved. All the attention came later, and a big part of that, it was not the most attractive game. A lot of people mocked it for its visually unappealing nature. But hopefully, Arceus Society seems to be definitely trying to improve the visual. They did change the theme to an archaeology theme, which is fine. I did like the mythical theme a little bit more. And basically, in this game, it's a hand management drafting game with some push your lucks and set collection. So you're going to be playing cards, and the cards have different powers that are going to affect how you manage to make these sets collections. And I haven't managed to play Ethnos because it's been hard to get because of, as I said, it was not very popular when it came out. And this will be my chance to actually try it out in some form.
So, first thing I'm going to bring up is a game that I know Nathan has and is very high on, Cyclades. So it was been sitting, coming soon for a very, very long time. Previews on the Game Found and whatnot. It is finally getting its date of June 29th, I believe it was, 28th or 29th. So it is going to be here very, very soon. And, well, Nathan, as a person that has the base original game, have you looked at, are you going to be jumping in onto the new edition?
Okay, so lots of things there. So I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Cyclades, but whatever. And I do really enjoy the original game, and it's basically a pretty straightforward area control game with an auction element for getting the actions you can do in a turn. Now, looking at the reprint, it doesn't look like they changed a lot, which is a great thing because it is one of my all-time favorite games, but it doesn't really mean that I'll necessarily buy it because I'll have to look at it more as they have more videos out, or maybe I'll try and hopefully get a playthrough of it at some point as soon as somebody puts something out for us, digital, some sort of mod for us to try. See how much they changed, how much they've been, tweaked it. They definitely tweaked the visuals, make it look a lot more modern, which is great. It definitely needed that. Is getting up there in age. So, short answer is yes, I'm excited about it. Long answers is basically I probably won't back it. But I'll try to get other people to back it.
Fair. So the next one is another game that was just announced not that long ago to be coming out here by Days of Wonder. So Days of Wonder has announced that they are going to be releasing Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West. So you're basically going to be playing Ticket to Ride 12 times as you do a legacy style game with events and changing the board. And one thing that they said is at the end of the game, you will have a permanently change board that will be unique to you that you can continue to play the game on.
Yeah, I also have a unique to us copy of Risk Legacy 2, but we haven't busted that out ever since. So
we've all played legacy games. We've all played Ticket to Ride. What do you guys think about?
I find it difficult to visualize what they would make a legacy element out of. I haven't really looked into it myself. I am curious. Uh, you bring out Risk Legacy, and that was not a great legacy game, but it was also one of the first to do it. So there's definitely a lot more knowledge and experience behind the newer legacy games. So I am more positive and hopeful about it. But and I'll probably get it. But yeah, I actually don't particularly like Ticket to Ride, but I still legacy elements are exciting enough to me that I'm gonna try it out.
I mean, Ticket to Ride was one of my biggest game for introducing new players to board gaming. Legacy seems almost counter to that 'cause that's something you do with people who are into it. So I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, I could see it as a good next step potentially. Oh, they've already learned Ticket to Ride. Why not try this?
Yeah,
Pim-
instead of going with one of the other maps. I mean that's just it's like, oh, let's introduce the Europe map or something. I guess I could see introducing that, but
Pandemic Legacy was similar. It's like if you already understood the concept of Pandemic, you could just go right into Pandemic Legacy without having to learn a lot, and that was one of the big positives of that game.
It definitely seems like how they built this up to is the first play, and of course, I don't know any of this for sure, just because it was just released and there's not a whole lot of extra stuff out there. And we're unfortunately not one of those that have like 100,000 subscribers, so they're like handing us copies. So, but based off of pictures and what I'm seeing and what I'm reading, it seems like almost the first play is going to be a very basic Ticket to Ride, and then each of the 12 is going to be adding a step or two beyond that. So it looks like they're going to be doing a good job of building um, a more complex game that you're kind of tailoring some aspects to. But I think I'm in the same boat of John. Like, this game feels like it has a very weird fit.
yeah, I don't know who I would play this game with.
I can answer that. Nobody. I I don't like the game enough that I could sit through 12 continuous games of it.
Hmm. I don't think I could do I don't think it's a game that I would also like a lot of these games, especially if you have time, you go and play like two sessions, kind of like let's say with King's Dilemma, you know, like that one I could play back to back of, but like if I was doing this one, it would have to be like Ticket to Ride and something else, you know. And
In
I mean, I do know some people that might be more on the lighter fare games, but uh, thing is though, then getting them to commit to like, oh yeah, let's hang out every Tuesday night and play this. Like that's the other thing is like I don't know a lot of people who are going to want to come in and play weekly that would then also want to play Ticket to Ride because they're in a lot of the same boat. It's like, oh yeah, Ticket to Ride was great, but I kind of don't play that anymore. You know?
yeah, you know what? Legacy train game would be really great with maybe like a Snowpiercer
Or
IP.
yeah, or I don't know, like even if you go with like the heavier stock, like 18XX. But I mean, I don't see how you could implement legacy things that doesn't like just completely imbalance those games already. Like they already have a very delicate balance that they have. Trying to, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and it's definitely something that I'm sure we'll keep an eye on because it's something big coming out of Days of Wonder. I mean, they're a larger publishing title company, and they've released a bunch of trailer videos out there. So it seems like they're really going to push this one. Then again, Ticket to Ride is one of their bigger items in their catalog, so I can see why. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to see what they do with it, but I mean, yeah, it's not something I'm like excited about.
so I got two more pieces of news. So one, we'll go with the happier, and then we'll go into the odder one. So the happier one. So Hasbro, about a year and a half ago, tried to put out HeroScape, did their own crowdfunding through their own site, and it failed miserably because they said we need 8,000 people to pledge. They priced it ridiculously, and they got, I think it was like 4,600, and had to cancel it and said, doesn't mean that we're not going to ever do this. It's just we're not going to do this now. Well, it was just released through a statement from Renegade Games that they now have the publishing rights for it and are going to be releasing a release of HeroScape, which is great news. Renegade is a fantastic studio. They've acquired some of the publishing rights for other Hasbro titles, such as Risk, and there's two other ones that I can't think of off the top of my head. But they're not afraid to go and put something out with this. So I think it's going to be in very good hands. HeroScape has this very large following, especially with BattleTech people, because of the hex sized terrain pieces. But super excited because most of the pieces are ridiculously priced in the secondary market. So if you grew up or have fond memories of playing this game, you may soon be able to get copies of it again.
Yeah, this is definitely a game that there is so much plastic in this game. I can understand the high price, but you know, Hasbro's a big enough company. They could afford to, have smaller margins and probably didn't need to price it as high as they did.
Well, and Hasbro has their own manufacturing, so it's not like they had to outsource that. I mean, still they have the cost of the molds and blah 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 blah. But having not to outsource that out to another company,
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have made it affordable for them / the consumer. They just chose not to. Because I
Yeah,
think the
well, I
base for
mean,
it was like $240. I think was the base. The last go around with Hasbro did it. I'm not exact. It was right in that area. Yeah, because I was curious and I saw that. I was like, oh,
well, I mean, I think they were trying to do a repeat of the Hero Quest, and I mean that was kind of, I think, about the price point for the Mythic Edition one was around 200 some, if I remember right.
but then again, though, with the Hero Quest, though, there was a base that I think you could get just the base game for $100.
Yeah.
And you didn't have that with this one. And then,
But
of course, too, with the HeroScape, they also, instead of trying to figure out something that would work, they just paid a whole bunch of people to go out to different medias and be like, hey, we need to get this going, and like basically be like almost like a carnival barker to bring people in, and that failed miserably also.
yeah, and the base game doesn't seem like it would be enough for this game because a big draw of this game is that table presence of building this huge map of plastic hexes and having a really nice scene.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I think Hasbro failed that they didn't do enough research before putting this out. And I think now that Renegade has this, they could see the failure before them and hopefully not make the same mistake. So last piece of news that we have going on is, I think it was came out 2 or 3 days ago as of this recording, and that was that Upper Deck is suing Ravensburger. So, Upper Deck is suing Ravensburger, and let me pull the article here. They're suing it for the game that Ravensburger is putting out called Orcana. They are saying that the designer that was working for Upper Deck left and went to Ravensburger, and after he left, he still had access to a lot of the material that he worked on for this game, which was called a different game under Upper Deck, which is pretty much ready to release at this point. They took a lot of the rules, a lot of the different things, reskinned it, and are basically putting it out under the Ravensburger name here. So it's interesting to see how this is going to play out, because it is two pretty big companies going to be fighting this one out, and it's going to be interesting how it plays out, because where does the line fall of can I own, rules?
Which, I mean, most like copyright has gone down where you don't own rules. Like,
Yeah, mainly don't own mechanics,
yeah,
which is definitely, I think, in the large part, a positive thing for the hobby. That you know, you can't say, "Oh, I own all drafting games," and something we want to avoid them people from being able to do. But people have to also kind of be within reason and not. And well, I got to be careful what I say, because this is a lawsuit, so I don't want to. I don't know in this all the details of this particular case, but we don't want it to get to the point where people can just abuse that.
Yeah, there's going to be a couple fine lines that are going to be walked because of this suit, and I feel bad saying it, but unfortunately, it is a long time coming. Just for the fact of, I'm surprised somebody has not sued another company at this level for something similar before now.
There have been a couple cases here and there, but nothing like major.
Yeah, so I think that this may be a big one that might define some things for in this hobby, and hopefully, knock on wood, nothing bad comes out of it. But time will tell.
Well, the thing that complicates any of these type of issues is our hobby is not just a product. There is an art element to it, and any copywriting with anything to do with art, it becomes very complicated and very difficult to say what is considered unique and what is considered the heart of a product.
yeah. Like, how much does the mechanics kind of play into the theming
Yeah.
and presentation?
It's all very, very good questions. But speaking of questions and talking about games, John, bring us to our topic of today.
Well, our topic of today is trying to fix a game. Something might be languishing on your shelf, or just not quite enough. And I mean, I have my game for that, which was Ad Astra. You know what? It's got a lot of the things I like, which is space exploration. But I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. The kind of like the base game that it starts out as. So it's you basically kind of randomly generate a star system for you to explore, and you kind of collect resources. You play 3 action cards per, you know, set of rounds, I guess if you will want to call them, uh, to like produce resources on the different types of planets. And it's kind of a you do an action, everybody follows. But the problem is, you program your 3 actions at once without knowing what anybody else is programming for their 3 actions. And one of those 3 actions can be a scoring. So scoring happens at so like what really like shocks me like the problem for it is scoring it happens at random times. Um and you don't know what scoring could happen because every player has 3 scoring cards and they can play them, whenever they want. So it is super swingy. Because if somebody gets lucky, gets into a system, gets the right type of planet, you know, you just really, it is just completely like chaos, and you don't really have too much control over what happens, and you're only kind of guessing, and there's really even no set time for everybody to play an action. So like all 3 of your actions that you chose could potentially happen right at the beginning, and then you have no control over what happens afterwards because you also place on the track your 3 cards as you're playing them. So everybody places one. So, you could have all 3 yours happening at the later half or, dispersed through. So you have I don't know, it's hard to create an engine of doing things intentionally with the game. But I mean it has, a lot of things that I like. Like I feel like they had like kind of the good, you know, exploration part of space, building out, like a lot of the things that I like in a game. It's just it always felt short to me. Like the couple times I got it to the table and tried it out. And I feel like the main way to fix it is kind of following along with what terraforming Mars Ares expedition does. And that is introducing a little more structure to it, um, where you basically the action phase is everybody plays one and it's a follow after, and then you like not having the whole program 12, like actions at one time and then executing them. Everybody picks, blind picks, reveals. You could have people potentially picking the same phase, you know, kind of reducing it down a little bit, having, getting you a bonus for being the one who, picks, hey, we're doing production on these planets, we're doing production on these ones. This, kind of reducing it down a little bit because, there's like movement is another one, going out and exploring and settling. I mean, it's like things that already kind of exist with other games like Race for the Galaxy, like introducing a little bit more structure there and also setting it so the scoring, when it's going to happen. So instead of having a variable game length, if you could go and set it so you have a set, like, hey, we're taking this many actions and then we're doing a scoring. These many actions we do the second, and then these many we do the third. And you could then randomize which scoring happens at the end of those, set turns. I think that would add a lot of like structure and things that you could build around. And then it kind of becomes of okay, what is somebody else going to play? Are they going to play an explore that I can then do a follow on that to, you know, try and get myself another planet to, do this other production? You know, I don't know. I feel like that would address a lot of my issues with the game is just kind of taking it down and making it so it's just not as complete random chance because you could have like if the right things happen, you could have somebody who wins in the first set of 12 rounds potentially, or you could be on round 50 and nobody's won yet. But yeah, I don't know, it's one I've always wanted to just go and try and just try and see like if I could fix the rules on it because it's just I don't know, I like the components, I like the theme. um you know I'm a sucker for space.
I have a game that it was one of the first games I played ever in this hobby, and somebody taught me this game, and I played it for several years before actually reading the rules and realizing the rules he taught me was wrong. And that's Catan. And I actually won't go back to the real rules because basically in Catan, the way he taught me is when you start out, you get the resources for both buildings rather than just the last one you placed. The key thing is that definitely speeds up the beginning of the game. It does slightly increase the swinginess of the game and the potential for one person to kind of run away with it, but overall it's a significantly shorter game that way, so it doesn't hurt as much when you say, oh, you just have terrible luck and you're having a terrible day with this game.
That would also kind of make it so going first isn't so terrible because whenever you're placing out, you're placing first and last. So if you got resources for placing first, then it's not so bad that you're also getting it for both of them because then you can make sure you get at least some good resources for yourself.
Yeah,
and just being at the whims of what everybody left behind.
It also made the actual placement significantly more important because you could take numbers that are bad, but get enough resources to immediately build again on their first turn to kind of overcome that.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a good rule, like tweak.
Mm-hmm.
So one that I'm going to talk about, it came out quite a while ago. It's a Grail game for a lot of people. I looked into it through James, actually. Released by Days of Wonder. Theme really into it. It's a grandfather to the Hidden Trader elements for a lot of that a lot of people say, and that's going to be Shadows over Camelot. So Shadows over Camelot, really neat, fun game where you're running around as knights, completing quests, and you have this hidden trader. And the game itself, if you remove the hidden trader, is still hard. And is a game that you introduce the hidden trader into it, and the trader doesn't have to do anything and can still win just because things are difficult to complete into that game. And I don't know if that element is truly necessary for the game. And I think that might be something that you could easily eliminate in every play and still have a pretty decent experience with the game. That's one of those ones I'm not sure.
Yeah, the challenge with that is part of the reason why it's hard, in my thought process, is because they have to equate for there may or may not be a hidden trader. So they still want to make it hard enough that it's fun if there isn't one. But then that means it becomes too hard when there is one. So I think they need to either make up their mind. There's either is a hidden trader all the time and then make the game a little easier, or just eliminate the hidden trader. But I think that kind of takes a little bit of the anxiety out of it, and you're actually probably gonna find it easier if you know for sure there isn't a trader.
I think it ran into the problem of being a game of a first of its kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
You're into uncharted territory. Now there was rumors a couple years ago. The designer was talking about doing a something of it. I think it was like 2020. It was going to be called Shadows over Brooklyn. The designer passed away, unfortunately, the beginning of this year in January. So probably dead in the water. But would it have fixed those couple things? At this point, because this game came out in 2005, I think we probably would have had some of the fixes that made it a little bit better at this point. But I think that's a game that could definitely use a fix me, because I think I agree with you, Nathan. It's a pick a lane here.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since I've even played it, so I'm even trying to remember, what it felt like, with the Hidden Betrayer on there. And like if there was even really even recourse if you figured out somebody was the Hidden Betrayer.
There was not.
Yeah, and I feel like that's also the other thing. It's like maybe if you had some way to, like if somebody becomes obvious that they're the Hidden Betrayer, you know, that you have some way to, like counteract it, kick them out or, like negate, or like, just like you have like any of the other ones, Dead of Winter where you can exile them and then they may or may not, then their like goals change. So they may continue to be a betrayer or not, or even Battlestar Galactica, then they go full on, you kill them, they go into the Cylon ship and then they're, you know, like the game changes, and it feels like that's probably the other thing that's missing.
Yeah, which is something I think they learned from. Many people will learn from probably playing Shadows of Camelot, and it got incorporated after that in more modern games. Uh, but yeah, that would definitely help a lot if there was something that they could do about the traitor rather than just, oh, he's a traitor. Okay, we lost.
Yep, we got one.
It's just odd that you could be the traitor, still help everybody, and they still lose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that could even happen in Battlestar Galactica. I mean, that one,
That was also a very
Kinda.
hard game. Yes.
yeah,
But at least,
But it was still an early one too.
yeah.
yeah.
And you had the option of putting the traitor in prison if you found out they were the traitor, and that was a guaranteed there is a traitor. So you knew there would be at least one that could technically be two.
Yep.
Well, going with that train of thought, because I know you've played it, Nathan, Unfathomable, which is basically a updated version of Battlestar Galactica. Does it kind of fix that issue?
Not really. It's still a pretty hard game. It still has the issue that Battlestar Galactica had of it being a fairly complicated game, hard to introduce new players to. I've only, unfortunately, I've only got really to the table once, and we lost horribly. I learned a lot from that game of how we really should have been playing it, but a lot of the stuff isn't terribly obvious as you're playing it. It's like, what is a good strategy? How do you respond in the best way, most efficient way to these issues? So, yeah, it's not an easy game to get to the table because everybody preferably has to have played it before.
Side note of that, was that playthrough with James, and if so, was he the traitor?
It was with James. And the traitor was either him or one of his daughters. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure he was a traitor. Actually, I think what it was is one of his daughters was a traitor and made him also a traitor later in the game.
So all is right in the world.
Of course, I think it seemed like if I remember right, it seemed at one point he realized his daughter was the traitor and assumed he would be made the second traitor when he had the opportunity. So yeah, it was a weird game. It was fun. I hesitate to get to the table with another group though.
Well, how do you feel about like, especially taking kind of the Hidden Betrayer game, like Battlestar Galactica, and fixing it by making it a lighter game? Which I'm looking at what was previously the the dice version of Battlestar Galactica that then became Dark Moon.
Okay. I have that. I have not played it yet. I'm really excited to try it.
Yeah, I feel like, because then, they're taking some of the complexity and the difficulty out of it. It's still a difficult, like it's still harrowing to complete the game, but, you know, there's still a lot of built-in cover for a betrayer as well. And, and even like chances for just doing a straight up bluff and bold plays. Like, because like one of the first times I played it, I was a betrayer, or I was the infected, and the person to my left, uh, she played one of those. She had like she drew up our task was have somebody show you their roll card, and you'll complete the objective. I was like, sure, completely nonchalant, like I don't care. I am an innocent person. Went and showed it to her, and then she was kind of like questioning why I had no qualms, and she didn't know how to play it.
Mm.
And it kind of, because then, like if she starts calling me, I'll be like, oh, what? That means that you're the bad guy, you know. So there's definitely a lot of, like the different objectives adds, like good tension to it, and like I said, like good cover.
Yeah, and I
It also helped that her fiance that was sitting beside her was the other infected that she was confiding in.
yeah, yeah, my understanding on that one, it sounds like a lot of the thing that allows you to cover is also because there's a fair amount of die rolling that's hidden, and so that you can
Yep.
hide behind bad luck to a certain
Yep.
degree, and that works.
But
It's
the thing
doesn't.
is, though, because of that, like you could even be the bad guy and you could put out the positive dice. It's like, hey, I obviously contributed. So I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, you can play that line very well because like with Battlestar Galactica, it's the cards and it's I don't know. I feel like it's not as like there's not much accountability to actions. You can be like,
Hmm.
come on, man, you've had nothing but negatives the whole time, which could happen, but probably not.
And actually, it does. Yeah, as you're saying, it does largely incentivize the bad person to help as much as he can, especially if somebody's having bad luck, because that guy's definitely the traitor that's having the horrible game.
Yep.
So, and I like the train of thought, but on the flip side of that, in order to do that, you're almost having to have a player that also has the ability to play a werewolf style game. Because if you don't have that ability to do that, I don't think you could go that route. Because if you're not able to talk, bluff, and finagle with somebody, you're going to fall flat. And you almost need the more game mechanic to hide behind if you are not able to do, I guess you want to call it the social part of that. So if you don't have that skill set, you need that game mechanic. So it's kind of a how or which way do you need the game to go for the style that you can play.
Yeah, and I really dislike the Betrayer games that are like overly simple, where you're basically only going by pretty much no information and just reading the person, because I'm terrible at reading people. So I'm talking about like Avalon and Rebellion. No, what's it called?
Who?
I know which one you're talking about.
Resistance.
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 Yes.
Yeah.
So those kind of games where it's like there is the barest structure of a game, and it's all on. Oh, this person did this round. They're probably the traitor. Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. It's like, I mean, we had these two people. It succeeded, and the next time it failed because, like, yeah, it's like almost you can almost write a script for how it's going to be played. It's like, oh yeah, first round is probably going to pass no matter who you throw on it because the betrayers are going to want to have it, that cover. Like they're not going to fail it on the first round, unless it's like their first time playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think um, that a winner does a good job with the hidden betrayer to kind of find a good middle ground. Um, and on the other half of the game, I think that's where I'm so intrigued by the game Blood on the Clock Tower, for the fact that it is a hidden betrayer game, but instead of only giving limited people powers, by giving everybody powers and ability to stay within the game even after being removed from the game, it turns it from a trying to read people, but more turning it into a puzzle of information, which is what the game should be, but those games usually don't do because they're lacking one or two pieces to push it that way. And I think that's where this game actually really succeeds in actually figuring out how to do that.
Yeah, like Dead of Winter feels like does a good job of that because yeah, I mean you're given recourse. If you do figure out somebody is just there being to be your foil, and it also gives people reasons to behave selfishly because they have their own personal objectives. So I mean they're like, guys, I would love to add fuel to this, but I can't.
Yeah, and well, I always intrigued by the psychology of Dead of Winter. It's like even I fall for it, and I do it all the time. It's like it's so many people do this thing where they will sacrifice themselves and intentionally lose to make sure everybody else wins. And find that really interesting, and it's not present in pretty much any other game. And I've never won a game of it myself, but I've helped the group win many times.
Yeah, I have my own issues with the game, but we've talked about that numerous times. But I think we've kind of fallen off the tracks of what we were looking at originally here. So
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I kind of tangentially. That's like
yeah,
like ways of
semi-related.
fixing the. Yeah. I mean,
So
yeah, like you guys haven't played Ad Astra, so it's kind of hard for me to go into more of the minutia of the mechanics, but
do you either of you have another game that you
I
know could be fixed?
Well, I have a couple others that I kind of want to mention. Well, the biggest one is Seafall. So
yes,
Seafall is a big legacy game. It was super popular when it was being announced and fell so hard and became almost a despise game, even though it has a lot of positive elements. So the big thing on this game is it's a very Euro-y trading and exploration game with a legacy element. The legacy initially is interesting, a little somewhat, but it breaks really badly. They have these really complicated puzzles that you're not going to solve unless you're really into puzzles and really paying very, very, very close attention. You're not even going to know what you're supposed to be looking for to be able to solve these puzzles to actually finish the game. So the key way to fix this is just pretend it's not a legacy game. Just play unlock the first initial part of it, and then just play the actual Euro game.
I don't know. See, for me, I feel like like a lot of the legacy elements were some of the best things that they had, namely the different advisors, like hiring and naming them, the getting the, investing in getting a colony felt good.
Yes,
Like
that's
for like the point that it broke down, when I was playing it, like well, there's a couple things that broke down for it. One, the legacy scoring was the issue.
mm-hmm.
Because basically once you fell behind, it was very easy for you to just constantly be behind, and the catch up mechanic didn't help enough, especially once you got to the midpoint, which was once you started exploring. Like once the exploration mechanic got introduced, that's just when it went super swingy.
True.
Because somebody could go and take one action and get 4 points that like your colony is not even worth that many points that you spent, like the past 2 games getting it set up for you to have there, for the next game. And yeah, I mean, like it was just there's no point to doing all the other mechanics once that came out because then basically you just rushed out there and and hope that you got lucky, or you wound up like me and like everything that you explored did bad things to you.
Yeah. Well, I had a play group that really was kind of interested in pursuing the legacy elements, and that was a lot of fun. But we found that if you actually ignored the legacy and didn't explore, you could actually get a lot of points pretty quickly. And often that was the person that win that wasn't trying to actually progress the game.
Yeah. Yeah, like I felt like a lot of those things, like naming the islands and everything else, like all of that felt great,
Yes.
And I felt like it just, like the point structures, like for things, just like I said, was just too swingy. That was the problem. Is and there's all these other objectives to do that were, like, oh hey, work on getting this, and that'll get you extra points. Like Twilight Imperium kind of objectives. Those felt good. Like the first third of playing through the game felt great, and then it was just everything after that was just broke down.
Without getting without getting into spoilers, I think one of the things that broke it for the late game legacy is they had hidden elements on some of the cards. So if you happen to spot on one card, you may not recognize it as something, but then you'd also have to actually get all these other cards to actually put it together and progress. And I thought that was awful. I actually ended up going on a site and looking up everything up and still struggling with knowing what I was looking for to actually find everything I needed to find without having to play the game and actually, just dig through the entire deck of things to find it. It was
for me on this one, it was a bad miss. We never finished years ago because it got to a point that the person that was trailing behind had that feeling that I am never ever going to catch up, and it just got to a point that the game lost its appeal to play for them, which made the game fall apart.
Yep. Yeah, I think that King's Dilemma does a lot better job of that because you know what? If you get last, you wind up getting points, but you get points in a different track. It's like that feels interesting because it's like, oh well, I mean I didn't get first, but maybe something else is going on for me. And even then, like the most that you're falling behind, it's 2 points instead of like 30.
Now, you haven't finished King's Dilemma, right?
No.
Okay. I won't say anything more.
Yeah. So, we have no idea how the scoring is going to work.
Yeah.
And the rulebook is intentionally vague about that, which, vague rulebooks usually are a detriment to a game, but when it's intentional in this aspect, it is a big boon because, like John said, it's like, ooh, these are special points. They feel fancy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you don't really know for sure who's winning.
Yeah. No idea. I do know that I got my faction's objective though. I made certain of that. I invested heavily into getting that to make sure that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a terrible person.
I'm also a rich person, so yeah.
Well, we all are. We've all taken from the fountain, so it's okay.
But what did you have to do to get that money?
Nothing that anybody's going to notice or care about.
Let's just say there's a very, very low reoffending rate in our kingdom.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess there are definitely worse things you can do in that game. And I'm sure you've done worse.
I don't think there is much worse than we could do in the game. I think we're going to
find out if there are.
I guess we're going to find out. I think we hit probably at least one of the definite low points for that.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask more, but I don't want to spoil it for people who haven't played it.
Yeah, it's definitely like I'm like it's way more narrative. So I mean, but I mean, yeah,
Mhm.
it everything about it feels so much better.
Yeah, but it does a good job of. It has an interesting narrative and a lot of really impactful choices in terms of story, but you do actually feel a mechanical impact of those choices too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did a good job of putting just enough board game into it to make the game run because you got to
Yeah.
have something.
But we're
But
getting off
it
track
is
again.
yeah. I'm about to say it's like unlike Seafall,
Yes, unlike Seafall.
where all your decisions after a certain point felt pointless.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and with
Like
King's
everything
Dilemma,
you
you gotta
built.
King's Dilemma. Make sure you got the right group to play it because otherwise it's gonna fall completely flat. As opposed to Seafall, just don't play that with anybody.
Yeah,
Or just, you know, unlock a little bit, then play it as like a one-off game.
yeah. You want like the take into like like a lot of those mechanics felt good.
Mm-hmm.
Like they start out right at the beginning, like the trading, like the Euro stuff. Like that felt like a good game, and then it just stopped being that.
It could have been one of my favorite games of all time, actually, the way it was starting out and the Euro mechanics of it.
Yeah, yeah. I was definitely looking forward to it, but yeah.
So do we have any other games?
I'll just rattle off a couple real quick. Cosmetic encounter, just certain aliens that don't mesh with your group, just take them out. Tapestry, the FAQ. I hate the fact that they have to have an FAQ of that. It's like I almost want to go and reprint the cards and on my home printer. I might end up doing that at some point. And Onk, just forget the merge mechanic. And those are my main ones.
Yeah, for me the big one's the Seafall. Like just forget, like just ignore like the 2/3 of the game.
Oh yeah, I think that was the one with the needed the biggest fix of all the ones we talked about.
I would fix 504 by basically making all of the games be the stock and then something else, because stock game element was the best part of that.
Well, if we don't have any more games to fix, should we go on to our silly game?
I feel like it's time for a silly game.
I think you gentlemen are correct. So, silly game time. We're going to take from one of the juggernauts in what we do, and being a review channel, and we're going to talk about some of the reviews that good old Tom Vassell himself did. So, in his early reviews of BGG, he actually put reviews in there. More recently, if he does a review, he just references it to one of their videos, and you can watch their thoughts. But there are still some of them out there, and a lot of them are older titles. And it's going to be very hard for you guys to pick out what those titles might be. But I think it might be easier if I give you the title, what he said about the game, and if you can figure out what rating he gave it.
7.1.
Then we have it. I have a very good tiebreaker for this. Now, as you know, BGG 1 through 10 is the rating that it's going to be. And to keep things into chance, I'm going to roll a 10-sided die to see which category we're going to pull from. All right. And I'm going to start with Nathan, because you are right next to me.
I don't know. I'm right next to Nathan, so, and I'm also next to you. I mean, it's a triangle, man.
You failed geometry. I closed BGG,
kinda-
by the way.
All right. So he has this as a previous own. This game came out in 2003, and the game is called Math Magic 2. To which he said, better than the original Math Magic. More strategy, more math. See my review for more details.
I vaguely remember. Actually, I might have watched that review at one point. That sounds positive, but I don't think he liked the game. And I'd have to see his actual review of Math Magic to see the first one to see really for sure. But I think it's going to be, let's say, a 4.
You're gonna say a 4, John? What do you think his rating is going to be?
It sounds
Price is
mid-range.
Right rules, just so you know.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go with 6.
Yeah, I did forget one aspect of this. This is early ratings for him, so he was nicer early on. He would have been probably a slightly higher rating.
So
More
John gets the point because he rated it a 6.5. Math Magic 2. All right. So 1 point for John. So let's go back into his ratings and see what we got. That was a hard one too because whatever with that number that I rolled there, he had 8 pages in that, so it was hard to pick one. All right. So John, you're going to go first with this one.
All right.
This game came out in 1997. The game
All
is
right.
called Bear Buddies. And what he thought of the game. Ugh. The game seems to be boring, even to young kids. You can only have bears hug each other so much.
All right. 3.5.
He's still, again, I'm going to go with the, he was still would have been slightly more positive, so I'll go 4.5.
All right. Well, you both are over, so no points on that one.
Oh wow! I was thinking
The big 2.
2. Oh wow! Yeah.
I didn't even know he rated that low.
All right. So what is that? Oh, interesting. We'll go into these ones. Yeah, and most of these reviews are like 2008 and before was when he did this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do this one. So Nathan, this game came out in 1969. The game is called Finders Keepers. And his review is, it's okay, and kids enjoy it, but the components are a bit dated now. My box smelled quite bad. The plastic warped a bit.
So by definition on BGG, it's okay is pretty much a 5.
Which of course your box is going to smell bad. It came out in 69 and he reviewed it in 2008.
I mean, if it didn't smell funky, I would be impressed.
Let's go with 5.
5.1. Price is Right rule.
You all overbid.
Oh! Wow.
Three.
It sounded more positive than that.
Because remember, like you said, Nathan, this was early, but not too early. So he was starting to get a little more ornery at this point.
Aha. This is before he did a bit of video of him throwing board games around. A board game around.
All right. So, John, this game came out in 1995. It's called El Grande.
Oh, yeah. All right. I am actually familiar with El Grande.
And he said, probably the most elegant game I've ever played. My favorite Euro game.
6.5.
6.5?
Mm-hmm.
Well, given I love this game, and I know he does as well, but I think he would have been relatively reserved with it. I will go with an 8.5.
Nathan gets the point. He gave it a 9.5.
Yeah, I didn't think he'd give it the full 10, but I knew it was up there.
I don't know. I felt middling about it myself, so I'm just letting my own bias show through. Ha-ha! Yeah, because if I remember right, El Grande. Yeah, El Grande is the one where you have like the different territories. You can like put it into the tower, your troops. If I remember right, is that the one I'm thinking of? Yep.
But the big thing is if you have the big box edition, which I don't know if that would be this one that he reviewed, there's a few different ways to play it, change it up, and it's a lot more fun.
Yeah. Didn't they like do a reprint of that?
Yeah, that would be the
A
big
few
box
years ago?
edition.
Yeah, the big yeah.
There was
that's what I
talks
thinking
of doing another reprint after that. I don't know if it happened, but they never really made it look better at any of the reprints. It still looks old.
So Nathan gets to start off this one. This one was published in 1985. It is called Advance to Boardwalk. And his review is not high in the strategy department. A barely fun game nonetheless. Too much luck, frankly, and not enough Monopoly.
Not enough Monopoly. Holy.
Ooh,
Wow.
not enough
yeah.
Monopoly.
I wish James was here because I would have given him that one.
I mean, just by the name alone, I was going to guess a 1, but even now that I'm hearing the whole thing, I'm guessing a 1. For sure. Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not enough Monopoly was a positive. Can we go below a 1?
You cannot go below a 1.
We'll go with I mean I could go with Price is Right, but I feel cheesy going 1.1, so I'll go 1.5.
Well, John, you get the point because it was a 3.
Whoa!
I was thinking it was higher, but I was like maybe a 2.
Yeah, I
But I don't need to actually bid 2 to actually get the 2-pointer, so but yeah.
I don't think he would do anything other than just halves. So it's either give me like 0.5 or a round number for it.
Yeah.
All right. So, John, you get to start this one here. This game came out in 1968. The game is called Crocodile Pool Party.
All right.
And his review says, I'd rather be stuck in a universe where all they did is play Monopoly rather than to be forced to play this travesty again. See my review for more details.
All right. So, not enough Monopoly, got a 3. So this is feeling... Now, this is legit feeling like a 1.5. The question is if I went too high.
Okay. You got an answer?
Well, yeah, 1.5.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Now, I'm gonna go back on what I said earlier that I don't think he really gives 1s actually. Now that I kind of went away from that, so I'll say a 2.5.
You both are over
Whoa!
It is one of the few games he gave a 1.
Ah.
So
All
ignore
right.
everything I just said because it was absolutely 100% wrong.
All right. So this is going to be the last one I'm going to ask, and we'll have our special bonus round to get our final winner. But Nathan gets to go first on this one.
All right.
Game came out in 2000. The game is called Aladdin's Dragons. Really like the blind bidding aspect. It's amazing how many times I am outbid by just one. But it makes for great fun. Must play with the magic cards.
Okay. So I am somewhat familiar with this game. I almost bought it. I was looking at it and got really good reviews generally. And I remember hearing he liked it.
But the question is, how much did he like it?
Now,
You know, in a scale of 1 to 10.
one of the complaints is it does show his age, but this was also reviewed in 2008.
Or before.
Or before, yeah. I'll go with a 7.
Okay.
7.5. I mean, I thought about going Price is Right rules and doing 7.1, but I think it's an 8. So I'm only going to bid 7.5. Just to be safe.
John gets the point because it is an 8.
Ah.
So the final thing here, worth 2.5 points. So to give Nathan a chance to win, because right now it is John 3, Nathan 1.
Mm-hmm.
And this is to 2 decimal spots. Who can go and get closest to Tom Vassal's overall average rating for his games? And I'm going to give you the high and the low here. So he has rated 8,141 games on his BGG profile. 36 have a 1. 101 have a 10. And we'll give John the first guess. 2 decimals, please, without going over.
Let's go with 6.09.
That was very close to the number I was thinking. I think he generally doesn't rate terribly low, but he also doesn't rate a whole lot of things 10s.
Yeah,
So
I was thinking probably skew just slightly up above what I was thinking.
So I was already considering 6.25 before you said your number. That feels a little cheap now, but considering the fact that I had decided I was going to say that number before you said your number, I think I'll stick with it.
Yeah, nope, I'm fine with that.
6.25. And to get the 2.5 points, Nathan, you are the closest for the victory today. His average rating is a 6.45.
And we were both in the right neighborhood.
Very
the
close.
Ballpark. It actually surprised me because if you look at his profile, 101 at 10s, 636 at 9, 1593 at 8, 2229 at 7, 1839 at 6, 925 at 5, and then so on down. But so he's about slightly more than average.
He does also have to play a lot of really bad games, but he is generally relatively forgiving for small companies and things like that.
But yeah, that is our silly game for this evening. Thank you so much for watching. definitely stay tuned for our next episode, where we're going to have a playthrough of Heat. But yeah, stay tuned for Heat. That's going to be our next playthrough. But until later, this is Tabletop Gaming Guild. Have a good evening.